In this video, I'm going to show you some of the most common ways commander decks fail and how to fix those failures. You're going to want to stick around because the third reason might be the most crucial for your own decks. Let's start at the beginning of your deck building journey, starting your deck with a theme. Most decks have a theme because it's easy and that's kind of how we like to play, but this can be a pitfall in many cases, and while starting with a theme isn't a bad thing, you need to know where you're going with that theme. Focusing on just this aspect of a deck is a failing strategy every time. Oh, I want to build a horse deck, or I want to build an artifact deck. These are a great sentiment, but they might be failing you in the long run. In my 2024 deck building guide here, right after I talk about card draw and ramp, I immediately talk about win cons. In other words, how are you going to win the game? Let's take the easiest example, the Dragon. This might seem super easy to build, and yeah, it's one of the most straightforward and popular decks out there, and it's getting a lot of support in the new set, but there are a lot of mistakes that can be made while you're building this deck. The first mistake that can be made is that you just throw in like 40 dragons that you think, oh man, these are the best dragons of the game, I'm gonna win every time. But then you find that you just don't win as often as you'd like. What's the deal? You've got the best dragons in the game. For all intents and purposes, I should be winning, right? So then why aren't you winning more often? This all has to do with a lack of a strategy. Having lots of dragons might seem like a strategy, but it's not. What are you gonna do with those dragons? Are you gonna attack, deal direct damage, add +1/+1 counters, go to other players? There's lots of ways to do this. You need to define what you like to do and prioritize a winning strategy, then build the deck to support it. The second thing you need to stop focusing on is putting in cool cards that just don't match the deck's strategy. The allure of powerful and flashy cards catches us all in its web, but at the end of the day, you need to do what authors do and kill your darlings, or eliminate things that you love that might not serve a purpose in the deck. And as much as you may love them, these cards can just be dead weight in your deck as you're playing. I like to look at Dragonlord Silumgar as an example in that Dragon deck. When it enters, you gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control him. That's such a cool ability and a freaking Elder Dragon, you gotta add it, right? But always ask yourself, does it help with your winning strategy? If your strategy is to build up a dragon army that builds up +1/+1 counters and then attacks, where does Silumgar fit in that? Or the strategy could be just to cast dragons and deal direct damage to your opponents. Does Silumgar fit there any better? Every card in the game always has a bad, okay, good, and great spot within decks. I'll just refer to this as the bog scale throughout this video. Silumgar is definitely a bad card to put in like an Admiral Brass deck. Not a pirate, doesn't correspond to the theme at all. If you're playing an Alila Artful Provocateur deck, that buffs flyers. Silumgar is a flyer, but it really has nothing to do with artifacts and enchantments, and there are way better cards for that deck anyway. Silumgar fits well with the Dragon and is generically good, as I said before, but Silumgar fits great in a Yarok the Desecrated deck. Doubling up on this ETB ability over and over again is amazing, and he could really shine in that deck. Look at each card you put in your decks and really think about how they move your winning plan forward. Where do they land on the bog scale? Using too many pet cards can lead to a deck with a lack of strategy and an inconsistent game plan. This brings us to something which might be the main reason your decks are running poorly. This section is about ignoring card advantage. I would place a fat bet that if you're watching this video, you've been in a game where you just sat there and you didn't do anything for like 4 turns with no cards in hands, constantly checking your phone on the side because you were bored. I've been there too. If you want to step up your deck building skills, you need to prioritize card advantage, and not only that, you need to prioritize proper card advantage. First things first, you need enough of it. This is your sign. Do not skimp on card advantage. I'm telling you, every single one of your decks should have 10 draw effects minimum. And no, that's not, oh, I've got 9 and then there's a Mind Stone on the side. No. That's not a full set of card advantage. Make sure you have enough, and make sure that card advantage isn't something coming off of the other resources like that Mind Stone. These can draw cards, but it's definitely not the best way to get cards into your hand. I'll break that all down in a future video, but for now, in my guide to card draw video I made here a while ago, I break down every type of card draw there is. Card advantage comes in many shapes and sizes, and choosing the right kind is extremely important. Watch that video to get a full breakdown, but here I'll just touch up on a couple of them. If your deck wants to use big creatures, make sure you get a few more triggered card draw engines that use those creatures to your advantage. These usually come in the form of enchantments like Garruk's Uprising or creatures like Beast Whisperer. Make sure you have a variety though, so you're not just stuck in the late game with nothing to trigger your enablers. If you're in green but your strategy is casting mostly instants, like in Calamax the Stormsire, you probably don't want to run this kind of effect as often as in other green decks. This kind of rule goes for Kess Dissident Mage as well, or any Spellslinger deck for that matter. These decks are going to utilize one-off or pseudo card draw effects more than creature-heavy decks will, because that's what the deck wants to do, cast instants and sorceries. Going back to the bog scale, Remember, bad, okay, good, great. I love the card Divination just because of its simplicity. 3 mana, draw 2 cards. This is never going to be the best spell. There's definitely better spells that do the same thing and more. However, for simplicity's sake, we'll use it in the video. Where do you think Divination falls on that Calamex deck? Is it bad, okay, good, or great? You might have an Archmage Emeritus in the deck, so Divination could trigger him, right? But is that a good use of Calamex, your commander? Sorceries just do nothing for it. So I'd say this is an okay card in the deck. It does do something, and it might trigger some of your other permanents, but it's not helping with the goals of the deck or what the commander is trying to do, at least to its maximum potential. Make sure you use that bog scale for every single one of your card advantages, and make sure you have enough of them. I promise it will save you in a game in the future. Now let's talk about must-have cards. These are the cards that you might think you need for your deck, and everybody else uses them in their decks, but it doesn't work well or synergize with the rest of your cards. My favorite example of this is Chromatic Lantern. This card wasn't always as accessible as it is today, seeing a peak of $15 at one point, so it just wasn't in as many decks as today. I have seen decks that run Chromatic Lantern that definitely don't need it. This is a card that shines really well in 3 color decks, especially Esper, Mardu, Grixis, and Jeskai decks. In other words, colors that don't rely on green's ramp effects. Chromatic Lantern can fix your mana fairly early in a game and makes it so you don't have to worry about other color pips on your cards, which can be a real problem for budget land bases. Now, 3 color decks and 4 and 5 color decks are not the problem. That's where Chromatic Lantern actually shines the most. But when you've got one in, say, your Izzet deck, right, red and blue, that's where things just kind of run a bit more smoothly. Instead of running it in a deck that only has to worry about 2 colors of mana, add things like Izzet Signet, Talisman of Creativity, or Arcane Signet. These cost less and they fix your mana in a more productive way. I don't know, may as well throw them all in the deck. Where does Chromatic Lantern fall on the bog scale of that deck? If you're in 2 colors, maybe run other things first, and if you're in green, opt for the other ramp effects because those are much better. This is also the case for Thran Dynamo. It's a brilliant mana rock that can do a lot for a deck, combos with stuff, it's great. But is it really that efficient in a Galta or Animar deck? And what about Lightning Greaves? Everyone's got that in a deck somewhere, but you have to realize that even though it only costs 2, equips for 0, and gives your creature haste, it has that pesky word Shroud printed right on it. This means that your equipment, Voltron Commander, literally can't be targeted by your stuff, so your other equipment, auras you have, or any other abilities you have. So once you move it to another creature, if you even have another creature, your commander is just vulnerable for your opponents to hit and strike down. So really think carefully about where you end up sticking your copies of these cards. Lastly, let's go over the actual most important thing for all decks, your land and your mana curve. You probably hear all the other Magic creators saying the exact same thing, put more lands in your deck. And they're not just saying that, that's a fact. I'd say the average amount of lands that people put in their decks is 35. That makes for a much slimmer chance of hitting your land drops than putting in more. In the video I mentioned earlier, the 2024 deck building guide, I said that 36 lands should be the absolute minimum. That's your base starting point. Do not go lower than that. And in most cases, you probably want to have more than 36 lands in your deck. This makes for more consistent games every single time. Although this disregards CEDH decks because it's just how the format goes, just don't even worry about that. However, for us normies over here, we're probably going to want 37 or more lands in our decks. And I'm guilty of not having enough lands either, I know. I really do get it though. There are so many cool cards I want to add to my decks, but ultimately, as we talked about earlier, you need to cut those cards and make room for more lands. Because without lands, you literally can't play the game. Your land count also ties in heavily to your mana curve. If you don't know what a mana curve is, it's basically just how many of each card you have in your deck of each mana value. So your curve should look something like this. Heavy in the middle, casting spells around 3 or 4 mana, and it tapers off on either side. It's just good practice to be in the habit of making your curves look like a bell, so you're statistically going to be able to cast more spells throughout the game if your curve is well balanced. If your curve looks like this, with a heavy emphasis on large spells and few mid-costing spells, your games will be a slog and it'll be hard to do anything throughout the game. It just makes for bad experiences all around. Just ask yourself, would you rather play one big spell on turn 6 that might just get removed immediately anyway, or would you rather play 2 3-mana spells or even 3 2-mana spells to kind of feel like you're actually doing something? The smaller spells might not be as flashy and fun, but their utility could help you win in the long run. And the amount of lands you have and your bell curve heavily correspond. So if your bell curve is shifted more towards less mana value things, then you probably don't need as many lands. And then the opposite is true for bigger spells. So you have to balance that, and you have to just play test. That's just how the game works. Many commander decks struggle not because of bad luck, but due to fundamental deck building mistakes. The first major pitfall is leaning too heavily into a theme instead of strategy. While themes like dragons or artifacts can be fun and aren't a bad thing, they often lead to decks without a clear game plan. Instead of just filling decks with cool spells and creatures, players should define how they want to win at the beginning and build around that strategy. The second mistake is prioritizing cool cards over synergy. Flashy or powerful cards are awesome. I know it, you know it. But if they don't contribute to the deck's win condition, they can just end up diluting its effectiveness. Using the Bog scale, bad, okay, good, or great, can help assess a card's actual value within a specific deck. Third, one of the most critical issues is ignoring card advantage, which brings consistency. Without enough card draw, even decks with the best cards in the world can stall out and lose momentum. Ensuring a minimum of 10 sources of card draw can significantly improve your performance. For the fourth tip, we talked about not using auto-include cards like Chromatic Lantern and Thran Dynamo for all of your decks. These are fantastic cards and have a lot of value, but again, use the Bog scale to determine whether or not these cards have a place in your deck and how efficiently they're being used. And lastly, you can't forget about your land base and your mana curve. Too few lands ensures that you're going to have a slow and boring game every time. You're more likely to lose. Skewed mana curves play a big part in this as well, preventing you from playing the game as best as it can be played. Avoiding these common pitfalls will lead to more consistent, effective, and enjoyable Commander games, and will upgrade your decks to the next level. And regarding the next level, the Radiant 100+ Deck Vault by Arcane Fortress is the ultimate blend of protection and elegance. With a sleek nanofiber exterior, it holds 100+ double sleeve cards, locked securely, and has a place for dice and counters. Stunning engravings and a beautifully illustrated interior add to that extra wow factor. Backed by the King's Guarantee, built to last or return it, no questions asked. Support the channel and upgrade your game. Grab yours through the Arcane Fortress affiliate link below. There are 2 more affiliate links below as well for TCGplayer and Manfred Plus Magic. By clicking those links, you can support this channel, and I'm very grateful for that. Make sure you join me next week for your weekly dose of magic, and remember, the Manashift library is always open.